The deadly winter blackout yields billions in profits for those in the right place at the right time with emergency power. Should the state of Texas claw back that windfall and protect citizens from rate shock? On the home front, all-pro superstar Deshaun Watson bombarded with multiple accusations of predatory sexual behavior. And at the state capitol, the crusade to deny bond for violent repeat offenders takes a major step forward. I'm Greg Grugan, and welcome to What's Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, Houston businessman and columnist Bill King. Next up, longtime super neighborhood leader Tamaro Bell. In the 3 spot, Gary Polland, conservative political analyst. Batting cleanup, founder of the advocacy group Urban Reform, Charles Blaine. And closing us out on the hot corner, host of Latino Politics and News on KPFT, Tony Diaz. Let's begin. Dozens of lives lost, catastrophic damage to thousands of Texas homes, and a multi-billion-dollar tab for emergency energy generation still far from resolved. At the Texas Capitol, the reckoning for the Lone Star State's disastrous winter blackout moved a step closer to critical mass with the forced resignation of Public Utility Chairman Arthur DeAndrea. That development as Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick pushed through the Texas Senate legislation which would effectively claw back billions of dollars paid generators who delivered electricity at the peak of the crisis for 300 times its normal price. Patrick called the 3 days of maximum rates a mistake, which must be corrected in defense of ratepayers. But House Speaker Dade Phelan has strongly signaled disagreement, labeling Patrick's proposal extraordinary intervention into the free market with the potential of triggering disastrous consequences for consumers, both business and residential. Publicly, Governor Greg Abbott is still riding the fence, although it's widely believed he and the Lieutenant Governor are on opposing sides of this evolving power play.
And under an emergency declaration, the governor has extraordinary power. He is the commander-in-chief. He is the ruler of all of the agencies. He can make this corrective action if he so chooses.
Panel, it should be noted Patrick this week denied any interest in challenging Abbott for governor. With that, I'm going to go straight to Gary Polland. What do you make of what's unfolding in Austin?
Well, I think that Lieutenant Governor Patrick actually is trying to protect consumers. You know, that conversation that the former PUC had with Wall Street saying, don't worry, I'm going to protect your profits. I'm saying these profits are illicit. Was it $9,000 an hour for electricity? Was being charged and kept on even after the generator started up again and the blackout was essentially over. So it was a total ripoff, a total screw up. I mean, and Abbott, from his standpoint, these people he put on the PUC, where did he find them? Why were they put there? Who were they representing? Because it looks like he's representing Wall Street and not representing consumers. So I think Dan Patrick's actually on the right track. What, are the Texans going to pay billions of dollars to these people who happen to be able to get this benefit? I don't think so. And while we're at it, why don't we take a look at that new windfall we got from the debt transfer, that is the money from the federal government with the new act stimulus. The state's going to get all this money. Well, here's an area we can spend some money in terms of improving our grid.
Bill King, but changing the rules after the fact, what kind of impact could that have on the business sector, the business of providing electricity in an unregulated market?
I'm not sure. I think it's going to have all that much effect in, future generation capacity and all that. These really were extraordinary. I mean, it was basically legalized price gouging. I think the problem is going to be, how do you unwind it legally? I mean, if I'm on the other side of that deal and ERCOT said, hey, you provide me power for $9,000 and I provide it, and they go King's X, we're not going to pay you that. I think I'm probably going to go to the courthouse and argue about that. So I think this can be a legal mess. It'll take a long time to unwind.
All right, Charles Blaine, I want to go to you on this because you keep in close contact with all factions within the Republican Party. Do you see the Abbott versus Patrick dynamic building to a crescendo here?
I mean, I do, especially because, you mentioned this in the start. The House bucked the issue. The Senate rushed through this bill. They sped it through. So just a side note, when your senators come back from the legislature after the session's over and they tell you they didn't have time to pass things, remind them that they rushed through this bill. So they have time to pass whatever they want. But the House bucked the issue, and then they adjourned and didn't take it up. And so it leaves it in the lap of Abbott, and he has to act or has to not act. And I mean, I'm erring on the side of I don't really think I want the governor to inject himself into the private market. Price gouging, while it's a bad thing, it's how you protect, vital resources during a time when people are rushing to get them. And so people signed contracts and they kind of knew what they were getting into. And if they didn't, then that should be rectified. But it's definitely building up to a crescendo because now it sits in the governor's lap and he's going to have to be the one be left holding the bag.
All right, Tony Diaz, we have two of the most powerful Republican politicians in Texas at odds here. Are you pleased by that? Are you favoring Dan Patrick, who appears to be advocating for ratepayers here?
Well, here's the nightmare scenario for Abbott, which maybe makes him feel as uncomfortable as Texan families across party lines felt during the Abbott-Texas power grid failure. As you pointed out, I find myself agreeing and in the same camp, amazingly, as Dan Patrick and even Gary, in that someone needs to pay for letting Texans down, and it sure looks like Abbott is left holding the bag. Worse, this clown, who I must stress, he appointed this clown to rip off Texans in their weakest hour. And this clown was telling the New York Wall Street folks who took our hard-earned money while we froze, he said, don't worry, the governor's got my back. Well, let's see who's got his back. And I want to see the Republicans delineate who's with Abbott as he goes down this road alone and who stands with Texans. And I'm going to stand with whoever is going to make sure we don't go through that garbage again. Fix it, Republicans. You're in charge of the state.
So Tony supports Dan Patrick for governor.
Do your work.
Okay, hold on here.
I think
a lot of folks don't know that Tamara Bell has a strong accounting background, and what may not be out there in the public realm is if we claw back this money from the state level, there's been a lot of testimony saying it's not going to reach the ratepayers, it's just going to go back to those retail providers, and consumers may not see a benefit. Let me go to you, Tamara Bell, for the last minute.
My problem with this is that the capitalistic system that we live in put us in the dilemma that we're in. Now, I don't believe that the consumers should have to pay for this, because I doubt if they agreed to $9,000 an hour or whatever, and they just be cold, go get some extra blankets and cuddle up and huddle up. I don't believe they agree, so they shouldn't be punished for this. My problem with all of this is the fact that that Wall Street was told, you good. It's Texas. We covered. You ain't got to give back a dime. I have a major problem with that. But on this show, when this happened, I told you all this reeked of Enron and California and the way they did the Californians during the heat wave. So I'm not surprised we're in this dilemma. I just hope they fix it. And I can care less about Abbott and Dan Patrick fighting each other.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Next, the staggering allegations against a Houston sports icon. Is Deshaun Watson a sexual predator or the victim of gold-digging opportunist? And later, the battle to deny violent repeat offenders bond heats up at the state capitol.
Crime is up, ladies and gentlemen, and it is associated with bail.
Welcome back. Innocent until proven guilty. That said, Houston Texans All-Pro quarterback Deshaun Watson can genuinely be described as embattled, with no fewer than 12 different women alleging sexual misconduct in civil litigation filed by well-known Houston trial attorney Tony Busby. Watson, who has been demanding to be traded for months, has denied wrongdoing in each of the incidents involving women hired to deliver massage therapy. Panel, the NFL has launched its own investigation. What do you make of this extraordinary turn of events occurring coincidentally as Watson threatens a holdout if the Texans refuse to trade? I'm going straight to Tamara Bell.
This does not pass the smell test for many on the streets. I've talked to people from ages 18 to 87 across the race line, and this does not proved through the smell test. Now, let me be clear about this. When you're 25 and you got $25+ million, you need to be very cognizant of the company that you keep. But whether that company that you keep has done something or you've done something with them that can be construed as criminal, that's the difference. Because one of the things I've read through the lawsuit that they put together, and one of the things, you all, this is today's new word, ratification. When you have a transaction, and whether it's a good deed or a bad deed, and you are compensated for that transaction, you don't complain and you accept that compensation, that literally ends it. If you hit somebody and you say, hey, don't tell my insurance, and give them money and they cash your check, it's over. I'm telling you all, don't be so quick to jump to where you are, because we made a mistake in the Hardy raid. Look where we are today. Thank you.
All right, Gary Pollan, you practice law and you've read some of the pleadings here. What's your take?
Well, first of all, Tony Busby is a serious lawyer, and he doesn't file lawsuits half-cocked. So that's number one. But number two, I find it hard to believe that Deshaun Watson, who's probably worth $200 million, is on top of the world, a big celebrity, is going to go out and do this kind of stuff, especially since I understand from talking to folks, he has a wonderful girlfriend. And et cetera. And he also has agents and watchers and handlers, because they try to protect him from people and exploitation. So, we'll have to let it all get sorted out. It sure smells. And I said, my general feeling, Greg, is I think it's sad. I think it's really sad. This is, and he will never get his reputation back, even if everything is untrue.
All right, Charles Blaine, I know you've been keeping an eye on this story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm split down the middle with this. You have 22 women, 12 of which have signed on with Busby, if I'm not mistaken, 10 of which are currently being vetted and potentially signing on, but have made claims. Many of these are Black women, but my frustration, or my confusion, if you will, is why none of them have ever filed a police report. Some of them are going to therapy, allegedly, for the trauma that they endured, but not one chose to file a police report, and this is all coming out now. So the timing of it just doesn't sit right with me. So I do have questions, but I think Tamara makes a good point about the fact that at that age, with that money, you need to be very careful about where you go and who's around you. I mean, one of these allegedly took place at the Houstonian. If you were not there, that should be easy to prove. If you are there, that's easy to prove. You shouldn't be in places that are going to get you caught up in something. And so I think it's a cautionary tale, but I'm split, and we just have to see what happens.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Up next, unaccompanied and undocumented. A swarm of children are crossing our border. How can you call it anything but a growing immigration crisis? We will address the latest developments on the other side of this break. Welcome back. U.S. Border Patrol stopped more undocumented immigrants this week than they have in any 7-day period for the past 20 years. There are currently more than 14,000 unaccompanied children in federal custody, with the number rising daily. The onslaught of minors crossing the Texas border is so great, the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas is being outfitted to house up to 3,000 immigrant teens. Panel, does anyone here dispute that President Biden and Governor Greg Abbott have a crisis to contend with? Bill King, I'm starting with you.
Look, there's no question that border crossings are up dramatically since the Biden administration came in, because there's a perception that, the environment is friendlier. But, the problem I've got is we keep arguing about what to do at the border, and we're not really dealing with the root cause of this. If you were a parent down in one of these Central American countries where the gangs are running things, there's violence, there's rape going on, you would want your kids out of there as well. And, we spend billions of dollars keeping peace and doing nation building way over in the Middle East, which has relatively little impact on us. And we're doing almost nothing about fixing this problem in Central America. And I think it's time that we go to the root cause of this, which is the instability and the lack of decent governments down in Central America, and do something about it.
All right, Tony Diaz, I imagine you agree with that position.
Well, I think I agree with the fact that right now, Abbott doesn't want to do anything real about it. He wants some distractions. Yes, we've got several children coming unaccompanied at the border. Maybe that number is going to hit about 20,000 near the end of the summer, perhaps. But the bigger issue is why those children are coming. Guess what? I've been speaking with a lot of immigration lawyers. They're coming to reunite with their parents. They're not being told go. They're saying, I want to be with my mother and father who are working in the U.S. And those undocumented workers are working for illegal Americans who continue to hire and are addicted to this cheap labor. I wish Abbott would do his job and really address cartels. Guess what? Cartels are terrible, illegal, illicit smuggling businesses. They smuggle people and drugs. Americans want those drugs. We're in a state that hasn't even seriously addressed legalizing marijuana. I tell you what, learn from the 30s. They took out Al Capone, the kingpin gangster of Chicago, by legalizing booze again. And did America fall apart? No. America now can buy booze wherever they want. So do your jobs, Republicans. Stop stereotyping and get to work.
Okay, Gary Pollan, what are Bill and Tony leaving out here?
Oh, it's 200,000, almost 200,000 people coming a month. These entering the country illegally. The problem is we don't have a legal immigration system that functions. And in that respect, I agree with Tony. We need to set up a legal immigration system so folks who want to come here can apply and it can get dealt with on a relatively expeditious basis. Bill's correct. We have neglected Central America. People are leaving. Those countries are being depopulated. I mean, that's what's happening. So we need to help them. We need to have a Marshall Plan for those countries so they can be attractive. But this all falls on Joe Biden and his administration. They've basically told people the door's open. Come on in. As opposed to, let's do it legally.
I would disagree with that statement.
I respect you, Tony. I respect
All right, let me
Tony.
ask Charles Blaine something. How would you solve this issue, Charles? I mean, we've seen the two extremes, the border wall from the Trump administration. Now we've got Biden flashing the green light. Where's the solution here?
I mean, I think we need to go back to some of the policies of the previous administration, which is enforcing or stopping the crossings of the border. But I think Bill makes a really good point, is that we spend so much money overseas, nation building, but yet we don't spend the money south of us, in South and Central America, where we could actually be stymieing this problem and ensuring that they're not coming here. But I do want to point out the hypocrisy, like I did last week. When President Trump had unaccompanied minor detention facilities, Democrats were up in arms. Now they're quiet, and yet they have more unaccompanied youth. The lawyers aren't allowed in there to see what's going on. The media is being blocked out, but yet everybody wants to be silent about this issue, and Tony wants to sit here and say that it's a Republican problem and Governor Abbott's the problem. No, it's ridiculous.
But you're wrong. Actually, activists are involved. We've been speaking directly with all
I
officials.
didn't say activists were involved. I said the media is being blacked out and lawyers were being blacked out. We saw that last week when the report was saying that lawyers couldn't even go
But
into
you're
the
saying that
detention
Democrats and activists and
Hold on, you guys. You're treading on tomorrow's time. Tomorrow, I want to say this. We have thousands of kids, tens of thousands of kids who are coming in. They're going to be using resources that are in neighborhoods now that are under-resourced. Does that concern you? 20 seconds.
Listen, let me go back to Bill, Tony, Gary, and Charles. Immigration is a problem. They need to come up with a solution, and they need to come up with one quick. I'm not going to say with the Biden administration, Obama administration, all this. They need to fix this, and they need to fix this quickly, period.
All right, we're not through with this topic. Coming up, amnesty for millions living in America without permission. Will Democrats finally deliver dreamers and others the legal status they crave? Welcome back. As thousands of undocumented newcomers pour into the country, Democrats in the House voted to begin legalizing millions of those already living here without permission. In 3 standalone measures, the House approved pathways to citizenship and legal status for so-called dreamers, as well as farm workers and refugees who have been granted temporary protection on humanitarian grounds. While the trio of bills attracted a smattering of Republican support, all are expected to contend with serious headwinds in the evenly divided Senate. Charles Blaine, what do you think is going to happen in the Senate? Do you think they can find the 10 votes they need on the GOP side of the aisle?
I mean, I really think they're going to have a tough time, especially given the time that we're living in. I mean, we have millions of Americans who are unemployed or underemployed over reactionary COVID policies, and they're getting monthly checks sent to them because we cannot afford to live yet. You want to usher in a bunch of people who, I know Tony's going to take offense to this, but who came here illegally. It's wrong. I mean, I understand that we're a nation of refugees, but you cannot keep redefining what that means. I think back to the point that we said last segment, we need to start spending more money on helping them fix their own countries and allowing them the ability to stay there. And listen, I'm not mad at them for trying to seek a better life. What I'm mad at is a broken system and the fact that we continue to allow this to happen. That's what needs to change. And so I don't think they're going to have an easy time finding 10 votes in the Senate.
Okay, Tony Diaz, jump in here.
Well, you can say all you want about what's going on in the other countries, but then you need to take ethnic studies courses to understand how the U.S. has destabilized some of these countries, including removing people who were elected by those governments. I don't have time to get there, but I will remind people of this history lesson. Even DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival, that was President Obama's legacy because Republican legislators would not try and fix this problem. Instead, they ran the stereotypes and didn't do their job. What I like to see is that there was now Biden coming back to say, well, let's make it a law. Let's make it work. And what's fascinating is that this is smart because you're hitting specific programs that even Republicans support. Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival recipients have been the most vetted people around. They've been in the system for about 10 years. So if Republicans are going to be honest about this myth of get in line, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival recipients have been in line.
The most vetted people are the unemployed Americans who don't have money right now because of the pandemic.
Well, then, you know what? Stop hiring illegally then. I mean, basically undocumented labor is being hired by Republican business people. So
the problem is that, not it's Republican business
you're
people.
pitting Americans against each other. I'm happy of the Republicans that supported the Modernization Farm Workers Act because guess what? Americans don't want to pick corn. These people do.
All right, Gary Pollan, what's going to happen in the Senate here?
Could they get 10 votes? Yes, if it was a bill that actually was balanced and there was a willingness by the Democrats to compromise as opposed to the my way or highway attitude that's come out of the Democratic Party since the election, which is quite incredible. In terms of the DACA, if they're properly vetted and they've been here for 10 years, then there should be a pathway for them. I mean, I agree, Tony. I mean, a number of these kids were born here. They only speak English, right? So that we need to do. But this bill goes much more beyond that because they want to also give status to deferred and forced deferred people. They've kept here and decided they're going to enforce or not before they deport. And so that is not a good idea. So the bill's overreaching. And the other problem is border security. What are we doing about it? We had some border security under Trump. We didn't finish. Now we've got nothing. They've opened the gates. So that's pathetic.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Up next, serious action in Austin to stem the escalation of violent crime and killings.
Public safety shouldn't be a political football.
Welcome back. The legislative campaign to interrupt the serial release of dangerous, repeat violent offenders in Harris County moved a major step closer to becoming law. Senate Bill 21 would severely limit the eligibility of repeat violent offenders to obtain freedom before trial by jury. This week, Harris County DA Kim Ogg delivered powerful numbers to the Senate Jurisprudence Committee in support of the bill, telling lawmakers 10,000 defendants out on bond in 2020 committed nearly 19,000 new offenses. Panel, as we've heard from victims advocate Andy Kahn, 103 of those preventable crimes were murder. I'm starting with Tamara Bell.
I'm glad that somebody is taking action because this is unconscionable for them to allow this to go on and on the way it is. Look, I'm for bail reform for misdemeanors. I do believe that needed to be done. People didn't need to sit in jail, lose their house, lose their job for a check or a tail light. But this felony bond reform, this is crazy. Do you understand the detriment that you're doing to a population, especially the minority segment of this city? It is, unbelievable. And you all are doing nothing but sitting there saying, oh, I don't want to get somebody to run against me because I'm being threatened by a commissioner. Come on, get a damn grip. This makes no sense. I hate it that we have to go to the state. But also back to MR, hell, do what you need to do. Because there are some people down there who have some charges, potential charges against them, and you ain't doing nothing.
All right, Bill King, you're pretty well versed on this topic. What's your take?
Well, I want to just emphasize something, the distinction Tamara made. We're not talking about misdemeanor bond reform, which we all agreed needed to happen, and I'm glad that it happened. This is felony bonds. These are people that have committed violent crimes, repetitive violent crimes, over and over and over, They're being released and they're going out and going right back to the criminal life they had before. 103 murders. By the way, almost every single one of those murder victims was a minority. I don't understand this. I'm going to tell you one thing we need to make sure that happens in 2022 is we throw every one of these damn judges out of office who's been doing this.
All right, Charles Blaine, you work in the prisons helping folks who are incarcerated. I know this is a difficult topic for you, but what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, partially to Bill's point, I wish everybody did agree that misdemeanor bond reform was important. I mean, because it took a lawsuit to get that through because people didn't agree with it. And to tomorrow's point, people are still being arrested for broken taillights. The bill's up for hearing on Wednesday in the Texas House. So I welcome everybody to go testify in favor of prohibiting arrest for that because it's still happening. But Huffman's bill that she laid out, it's supposed to be a shell, and they're gonna submit a substitute to kind of more flesh out what that bill looks like. But it needs to be comprehensive. We need to talk about the financial aspect of things. We cannot just talk about, and listen, I understand, I live here in Harris County. I see what's going on just like everyone else, but we also have to be compassionate to the folks who are being arrested and who cannot afford to get out, but are deemed low risk. And I think that gets lost in this conversation, and it needs to be a robust, comprehensive conversation, because if we just pass something that targets one side of this, the pendulum's going to swing the same way, and we're going to end up in the same situation in a few years. And I just wish that the conversation was a little more robust. I think Andy Kahn and Senator Betancourt and all these people are doing great work. I just wish we'd have a more robust conversation about this whole thing.
Gary Pollan, you are a respected attorney who worked in the criminal courts. Is this the right legislation for Harris County?
Well, once it gets fleshed out, the short answer is yes. But there's a threat out there, and that's a lawsuit filed by the same alleged left-wing reformers that like misdemeanor reform, which we all agreed to. They want felony reform. It's called Russell versus Harris County. They had a sweetheart deal set up where they were going to enter into an agreement with Harris County, Rodney Ellis and Lena Hidalgo, the two leading jailbreakers, and they were going to roll over on felony bonds too. They did try to get the judge to order a full release of the county jail because of COVID. That didn't happen. So there's a threat out there, and those judges that we criticize, I'm in the courts. I see what they're doing. They're conscientious. They are doing their best, but they have been threatened by Commissioner Rodney Ellis. It is true. He has told them, you don't agree to let these people go, I'm going to find you an opponent. And Rodney Ellis and Lena Hidalgo are the cancers that have generated the runaway crime wave in this county.
Okay, Tony, you heard it from Bill and Tomorrow. Most of the victims of these violent repeat offenders are minorities, including Latinos. And we're not talking about misdemeanor offenders here. No one wants poor people languishing in jail. Do you support this bill?
This bill is a great beginning to a deep discussion, but we need both parties to get behind this. Let's get something straight. Get these repeat offenders off the street. The problem becomes it starts to look like Democrats don't want to lean in harder, and then it starts to look like Republicans don't want to appeal to this whole bail movement. Let's get over that. Democrats need to step in here, make this work, because our communities, like you pointed out, it's our African-American, Latino communities that are suffering from these repeat offenders. At the same time, they're also in the same pool that needs help with bail reform. It's got to be a simple way to make sure we have access to information of which of these terrible criminals are abusing the law and keep them in check. This is a smart way because it allows one way to track. But deep in there, I don't like the idea that we don't have the full bill yet or that there's ways to sabotage the different bail reforms. But let's work together. Democrats, Republicans, this can't be one issue, one side or the other.
Okay, real quickly, Gary, 20 seconds. The governor is behind this bill. We have Republican majorities. Any chance this doesn't get to Abbott's desk?
Well, there could be problems in the House because the House is pretty close. And so if there are some left-wing Democrats who don't support common sense bail reform that also protects the public, then we got a problem. But I also
all right, we're leaving it there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Gary. Up next, Houston's high-profile and sometimes controversial police chief checks out of the Bayou City.
The people are being victimized every day in Harris County because we have judges that continue to give away the store to violent criminals.
The sudden surprise departure of Art Acevedo is on the WYP table on the other side of this break. Quite possibly the most head-snapping development of the week came from Chief Art Acevedo, who announced he was leaving the Houston Police Department to head a much smaller force in Miami.
And so I leave with a great satisfaction in my heart that I've given my best, and I've led the best team, and it's hard to say goodbye.
Earning high positives in a recent UH Hobby Center poll, Acevedo drew praise for his handling of tensions in the wake of George Floyd's killing, but also criticism for the lingering scandal surrounding the deadly Harding Street drug raid. Mayor Sylvester Turner wasted little time naming Executive Assistant Chief Troy Finner as Acevedo's permanent replacement. Panel, I guess this drives his stake through all that talk. Acevedo would run to replace the term-limited Turner. I'm going to start with you, Tamara Bell.
I told y'all he wasn't running for mayor. I didn't tell y'all he wasn't running. He's definitely running. He couldn't run away from here quick enough because the Hardy raid will overshadow any legacy that he did with George Floyd marching and anything else. That will be on his tombstone right there in Houston. So let me not waste my time and congratulate Troy Finner as the new chief of police. Troy's been over 30 years and he has an excellent community relationship because community policing is where he came in. And I pray we go back to that because we need that.
Okay, I'm going to go to Bill King. 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was glad to see that Finner got the job and that they didn't go out for another national search. I mean, we know these national searches, they never seem to work out. The number two person that was in the running for it is a Chief Slinker, and he's actually a very good guy too. And the interesting thing is that Finner and Slinker are very good friends, and Sylvester appointed Slinker as the new executive chief. And I understand the two of them had agreed beforehand that whoever got the job, they were going to be there supporting each other. So I think this might be a good thing for HPD.
Final 30 seconds to Charles Blaine.
I have more faith in HPD today than I did last week. I'll tell you that much. I mean, I just find it interesting that when the announcement came that Acevedo was leaving, I think he sent it from his hotel room in Miami because we only found out hours before the press conference that they held. So, I mean, he said bye to Houston, so I guess Houston can say bye to him. I'm excited for I guess, chief nominee until council approves him, Finner. I think he's going to do great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what HPD does going forward because we need someone who's more focused on Houston and not on the national stage.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. When we come back,
we must pass laws to prevent election officials from jeopardizing the election process.
is it safeguarding the integrity of our democratic process or thinly veiled voter suppression? A lively debate on the latest ballot box initiatives when we return. 24-hour voting, extended hours to cast ballots, and drive-through polling places. All Harris County innovations in the past pandemic-impacted election, and all targeted by Republican election integrity legislation aimed at banning them for good. Also included in a flurry of bills filed by Houston State Senator Paul Bettencourt, a ban on listing a P.O. box as an address for voter registration. The slate of election integrity initiatives has the full support of Governor Abbott, but also the full condemnation of most Democrats like Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, who labeled it voter suppression and a modern-day poll tax. Panel, is the Republican effort justified or overkill? I start with you, Tony Diaz.
All you have to do is look at federal legislation, which is right now in progress, where we should be actually getting people to vote online, making it very easier for people to vote. If the national legislation is passed, people can vote same day. Let's look at how hard Texas has made it for people to vote. Just the whole idea that you got to wait 30 days to register to be qualified for that election, that's archaic. I want to remind folks that the only reason we have some of these laws is because of civil rights lawsuits in the past. We can't go backwards. You have to go forward. This is backwards.
All right, Gary Pollan, I didn't see you on screen, but I thought your eyes were rolling up into your skull when Tony said voting online. What's your take on this?
Well, look, if your goal is to allow cheating, massive cheating and vote stealing, then voting online is a good idea. So congratulations, Tony. But look, the Carter-Baker Commission in 2005, a bipartisan panel studied elections in the United States, came up with proposals to minimize the opportunity for fraud, voter ID, no bundling, let's see, no duplicative registration, regular cleaning of the voter rolls, no voter registration in multiple states and be able to check that, reliable voting machines you can double check. Same-day registration is a prescription for cheating. All the things that we've done in these elections in Harris County gave opportunities to cheat. Lena Hidalgo is in fantasy land when she says it's a poll tax because we want to make sure that we have one man, one woman, one citizen, one vote, one time. She's wrong.
All right. No one spends more time at the polls than Tomorrow Bill. What do you think of this legislation?
Listen, I'll tell you, this is another thing that don't pass the smell test. If it was so much damn cheating, how the hell did the Republicans keep Texas? I swear, one seat flipped in this area, one seat. This is a fear of the changing of the soup. They are seeing now it's a hell of a lot more spice in the gumbo than they predicted. And because they see that Texas is getting a little more saucier and a little more colorful and diverse, they like, we got to do something to stop this. That is what this is about and nothing else. This is truly what this is about. Because when those polls stayed open, they didn't stay open for Democrats only. Everybody could come to 7. Everybody could come to 10. It wasn't like you had to be a Democrat or you had to be an independent. Anybody could come. This is about canceling votes.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Up next, we explore why so many Houstonians lost water in the great winter storm. Did lack of city preparation lead to unnecessary suffering? Our conversation turns to accountability when we come back. As if the severe cold and the lack of power for days weren't enough, tens of thousands of Houstonians lost access to city water during and after the winter storm. This week, investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski revealed 20% of the backup generators at city water facilities, failed to function during the crisis. That's 1 in 5. Panel, the polar vortex was certainly an extraordinary event, but is that failure rate acceptable? And if not, should leadership be held accountable for the consequences? I'll start with you, Charles Blaine.
No, it's not acceptable, and yes, they should be held accountable. I'm glad that Jeremy blew the lid on this, but there was a conversation happening before this about why the water was out. When everybody was out of electricity, it was like, well, what's going on with the water system? And yet you have the mayor and many city council members pointing to the PUC, pointing to ERCOT, pointing to the state legislature, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, all about the electrical stuff, but not really much conversation is happening about the water system. Councilmember Amy Peck was the first one, like days in, saying that they need to have a hearing and to find out why this happened, and we have not heard anything. Now, I will say there is a petition going on to give council members the power to put things on the agenda, and if they had that, maybe they could call a hearing and have Carol Haddock and some other folks from Public Works come up and talk about why this massive failure happened and why people were out of water for weeks.
Bill King, what's your take on this?
So the city of Houston relies on a pressurized system. You know, a lot of places have water towers. They pump the water up into the tower, and the gravity provides the pressure. We don't have water towers in Houston. We just have tanks, and we have to rely on pumps to pressurize the system. That means you've got to have electricity running to them all of the time, or you lose pressure. And once you lose pressure, then you end up with these boil water notices. So look, you're going into a situation where it's highly likely you're going to lose power. Anybody would have gone out and said, let's start all the generators and make sure they're working before this storm hits. I mean, just common sense. You know, we got this 100-page long resiliency report, ironically, a couple of weeks before this happened, and this wasn't even on the radar.
All right, Gary Pollan, take about 45 seconds.
Look, this goes right at the feet of Sylvester Turner. We have a strong mayor government, so he's been mayor for quite a while. This should be taken care of. This is a problem, and instead of playing total blame game, let's get it fixed. Amy Peck should be congratulated for bringing up the idea. The city just got a windfall from the federal government giveaways. Spend some of the money to make sure your generators don't break down again in the water system. This is not rocket science. Now, if we do things like we've done in the past, as Bill knows, we talk a good game about the problems, then we go and we roll 5 years later, and the problem still hasn't been dealt with.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Still ahead, as the nation grapples with a serial killer targeting female Asians, Congress resurrects a slate of safeguards aimed at better protecting America's women. Over in the Senate, that single component could potentially doom an otherwise relatively uncontroversial bill. I'm going to start with you, Tamara Bell.
Listen, I'm very glad that they're even taking this up. As everybody knows, during this pandemic, domestic violence has skyrocketed. And that's just what we know about. That's not the ones that didn't go report it at all. So I'm very glad to see that they're looking at doing something to protect women and children during this time.
Okay, Tony Diaz, do you think this is a good move and an important symbolic move anyway?
A really important move, and we want to wish everybody a happy Women's History Month. I'm glad that the role of women is being perceived more profoundly, and we have to worry about the safety of women. What this bill adds is that violent men who basically stalk women or beat women, I don't think they should have the right to have a gun. That seems pretty straightforward. I think when people oppose this bill, they need to explain where they stand on that. Now, does other aspects of it get people off track? Perhaps. But to me, this is important because these are very real threats to single moms, to moms, and to the trauma it causes to generations of children who have to see it. It's good that we're addressing this.
Okay, Gary Pollan, is this just window dressing? Meaning, do we already have laws that outlaw all of this behavior on the books?
We do, and the bill had bipartisan support in the past, I think mainly for symbolic reasons. But on guns, Tony, the Democrats have taken the old bill to reauthorize and changed it. So they've changed the definition of domestic violence. So the bill now no longer requires domestic violence involving a crime or physical force, but instead could involve undefined actions as vague as enabling coercive behavior. And on guns, this law would allow someone to go to court and get an ex parte order, which means you're not present to defend your rights in order you can't have guns anymore. That's a couple of the changes. So I'm in the Senate. I'd vote no. If they want to give me a clean reauthorization based on the old bill, I'd vote yes for symbolic purposes. Violence against women is enforced locally by our police department and district attorneys.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us. The conversation continues on a national level next with Fox News Sunday and host Chris Wallace. From all of us here, have a safe and healthy week.